absolutely massive news about Google being officially ruled a, quote, monopolist by a U.S. federal judge, landmark in the history of the U.S. economy. Let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. So this ruling came out yesterday, and according to the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, Judge Amit Mehta said in a 277-page ruling, Google had abused a monopoly over the search business. He says that Google acted illegally to maintain monopoly in online search, quote, landmark decision that strikes at the power of tech giants in the modern internet era and will fundamentally alter the way that they do business. The Justice Department sued Google previously, accusing it of, quote, illegally cementing its dominance by paying other companies like Apple and Samsung billions of dollars a year to have Google automatically handle search queries on their smartphones and web browsers. Google is a monopolist. It has acted as one to maintain its monopoly. So what this means potentially, now of course, let's be honest, like this is going to make its way through the US court system and it will take probably a decade before any of this is resolved. Nonetheless, the ruling by the federal judge on the most significant antitrust case against probably the largest, company and emblem of a quote unquote monopolist in the entire business does both mean a significant setback for Amazon and online shopping, for Facebook and Instagram, whenever it comes to social media, the ownership of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, for future acquisitions and driving company behavior. This is both a bipartisan effort that was done by the Trump administration, continued by the Biden administration. And the fact is that the ruling only sets the stage now for what some sort of future quote unquote unwinding may look like, because he did not include remedies in his decision. And there are all kinds of interesting possibilities. The idea could be that Google Search and AdSense might have to remain its own company. They would have to divest itself, perhaps, of YouTube, the platform that we're talking about here right now. I mean, we haven't seen significant changes and actions like that in the US economy in literally decades. And it's something that a lot of anti-monopoly activists, people like Matt Stoller and others, have been pushing for quite some time.
Yeah, and the case on the search side is pretty straightforward. What Google has been doing has been paying companies like Mozilla and Apple to make its search engine the default search engine, and quite simply, the judge said that's illegal. That is cementing your monopoly. You can't do that. That it has disincentivized these other companies from fostering competition, and it has allowed Google to turn into a crappy search engine because they don't have any competition. And I think anybody who uses Google, which is everybody basically, can attest that it's not as good as it used to be, and that becoming a monopoly has predictably done what people predict would happen to monopolies. The quality of the product gets lousier. The amount of money that they extract from the different clients that they work with, advertisers, et cetera, just goes up and up and up. And consumers and small businesses are harmed by it.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I mean, here I'm going to read a little bit from Matt Stoller on his big Substack, and he just says, today is a big day for American business. 15 years after it was first investigated, search giant Google is finally going to be held accountable for unfairly thwarting competition. He says, I'm going to discuss the complaint against Google, why it lost, the next steps, and what this case means for American business going forward. He says, but make no mistake, the decision is huge for Google, the web, and the revival of monopolization law against giants across the economy. It's a big deal for anti-monopoly, as he talks about. What he really discusses is that the crux of the case is that paying not only Apple, but LG, Motorola, Samsung, AT&T, T-Mobile, Mozilla, Opera, Verizon to make sure it is the only search engine that consumers ever saw. You also note that Google allegedly, according to the judge, destroyed evidence actually that was due for its case. And the judge noted that this was obviously going to contribute not only to his decision, to the behavior of the company, but also urged, future judges and others to keep that into consideration, the behavior of the company. I mean, what's also been interesting is to see the competitors of Google discuss this. Rumble, for example, a video platform, which we also post on and which we're part to partner with via Locals, talked, the CEO says, today's decision confirms what everybody knows. Google is a monopolist. Rumble has been making this argument for years in multiple antitrust lawsuits against Google, both currently and ongoing. You also saw Bing celebrate this decision because Bing has effectively been not even allowed to compete even if it wanted to try and become the default search engine on other mobile platforms or with other browsers out there. And when you think about the sheer scale of like the vertical integration of the Google empire, this just shows us that the idea of the whole pay for play that really exists on a lot of these companies and with social media as well, doing away with that would allow a more competitive ecosystem, perhaps, to rise. Although at this point, I'm not sure. The damage may all be done.
Yeah, it might be, and we might just get overcome by China and others that have actual innovation, like inspiring economies. The remedy phase is what comes next, and that will then be up to either the Harris administration or the Trump administration. And as Stoller writes in his piece, he doesn't have confidence in either of them to pursue this as vigorously as the Biden administration did, because this is Jonathan Cantor pursuing this from the Department of Justice, who is massive enemy of big tech and other monopolists. And then, of course, he's an ally of Lena Khan and her very strong FTC, who Kamala Harris has still to this day not said that she will stand behind in the face of billionaire pressure from Diller and from Reid Hoffman, urging her to get rid of them. Like the billionaire class, which is under the gun by the FTC and Cantor at the DOJ, is at the same time giving money to the Harris administration and asking them to then roll back on their prosecutions of these antitrust cases. Now, should be noted, there is some bipartisan nature to this. This case started under the Trump administration, and it was then taken to completion by Cantor and the DOJ. The concern is that a new Department of Justice head, who would not be Cantor if they push him out, would go to Google and say, look, it's the remedy phase here. You're going to appeal this. It's going to go on for years. Let's just come to a settlement here. You will promise to do good behavior in the future. Give us a couple $100 million, a couple $1 billion, whatever it is. And this will all just go away, rather than breaking it up and potentially creating a playing field that would allow for innovation again. Because if you think about the amount of innovation that the tech sector had from the 2000s into like the mid 2010s, it was exponential. And then it just flattened off as Zuckerberg, Bezos, Apple, and the rest of them just got complete control of everything. Every new startup that came along no longer was interested in becoming a company that was serving people. It wasn't even interested in becoming an IPO. All they wanted to get their 10x was to get bought by Facebook or Google or somebody else. So you just threatened to be like a successful company that's innovating, and then you would get bought off and you'd become a multimillionaire, and then you would go do that again after your lockout phase is over. That is the opposite of any type of economic innovation, and it's not surprising that then TikTok sweeps in with a new algorithm and just takes everything over.
So there you go. It just shows us both the holes of where everything is and also what the landmark decision means there for Google. I also wanted to give an update, just on the economy. Things have actually rapidly changed since yesterday, as we said. So just in the morning, we brought everybody yesterday the news that they're the largest single day drop in the Nikkei since 1987. Let's put this up there on the screen. Is this 1987 all over again? There were all these questions. Well, it turns out, it dropped by, I think, 12% in a single day. It also, while we were all sleeping, guess what, guys? It rose by 10% after its worst one-day drop, which led to the global rout. And the yen was, quote, giving back some of the gains that it made on Tuesday morning. So it does look like there's a significant amount of volatility. It also, look, I don't yet know where the market will close at the end of the day, but both Dow and S&P 500 futures are up a little bit despite their 3% loss or so yesterday and the 1,000 point drop in the Dow Jones. Just to say that there's a lot of whipsawing going around. People don't exactly know, where this market will end up and what the fundamentals were driving. So in Japan, for example, part of what triggered this was a lot of fear over U.S. slowdown and then consumer spending, which they should be real about, because we have seen the bad unemployment report here in the U.S. too. Apparently, there were a lot of traders that were doing something with the Japanese yen, in which they were borrowing low interest dollars here in the U.S., then buying high interest stuff in Japan, and taking the spread as profit. The Japanese traders, I believe, were trying to drive some some of that out. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, which is difficult kind of to wrap our heads around. But I think in general, we can probably say, Ryan, that when we have this amount of chaos, it's just not good. It's not good for U.S. financial markets, for the U.S. system. In fact, U.S. retail brokers, let's put this up there, please, on the screen, actually had massive outages yesterday because so many people were trying to check their portfolios, including Charles Schwab, Vanguard, and Fidelity. I mean, those are three of the largest consumer retail brokers. I mean, at the same time, so while, look, I agree they should not have gone down. They inadvertently probably saved people like billions of dollars by just stopping them from panic selling. Because imagine if you panic sold yesterday at the bottom, and then now today you're seeing, especially if you're like invested in some Japanese ETF or something like, oh my God, I gotta sell them, and bounces back 10% after you were sleeping. So just let that be a lesson. You should never sell. Whatever, we should never panic sell. You should always try and think rationally about these things.
You're probably going to get taken to the cleaners anytime you try to be a professional at this.
Right, yeah. In general, like you're not a day trader. And even, the real question, or the real answer is that even the day traders, as we learned with this whole Japan situation, they don't even know what the hell they're doing. So it's all kind of as Crystal likes to say, the graph of rich people's feelings.
It's all about the line. Like if you're a day trader when the market is going up, then most of your trades are going to work out well for you.
Yes.
If you're a day trader when the market's going down, you're going to lose most of your trades. And people just get a sense of their own
importance.
I was a stockbroker like 20 years ago.
Really?
We can talk about
an
that
actual stockbroker.
Yeah. Series 7, 6.
Yeah. So I could call you up and you would place a trade for me?
Yeah, I could have.
Why wouldn't I just do that on E-Trade? Oh, oops. Okay. That's part of the reason.
You wouldn't have gotten my expertise.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Right. That's what you're paying the 2%
and the 2% in, 1% out.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's what the fee is for. The Trump campaign is trying to capitalize on this, calling it the, quote, Kamala crash. Here's what they had to say.
Here we go, look at them go down. What some would call history in the making.
Don't say that. We have never been down 1,000 points ever, not even intraday on the NASDAQ.
Bidenomics is working. It's working.
The stock market just taking a big old nosedive this morning.
Dow Jones is down about 1,010 points.
That is called Bidenomics.
The Dow fell more than 600 points Friday on a weaker than expected jobs report.
5%, Meta 6%, Amazon 6%, Apple 9% down.
Bidenomics is working.
Fears of a recession began after Friday's disappointing July jobs report.
Bidenomics is working.
A rise like that is historically a sign that a recession is imminent.
This is Bidenomics.
What you're seeing right now in the stock market is what Americans have been feeling for the last 3 years. It's just a manifestation of it right now.
All that is called Bidenomics.
All right, let's see if that sticks, Ryan. I'm not sure yet if it will, especially since the stocks went ahead and rebounded.
Can I say, Trump has been saying that he deserves credit for the stock market's rise during the Biden administration, but it's actually Kamala that deserves the blame for the crash.
I like that. I like that. Inconsistency is a hallmark of a good politician. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.